This is Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of the state of Texas. Recently, AG Paxton beat incumbent John Cornyn in the primary to become the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate, and CNN wasn't happy about it.
The final polls have just closed in the state of Texas, and we have a major projection. CNN can now project that the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will defeat the incumbent Republican Senator John Cornyn. This outcome has major implications for this November, with Democrats sensing an opportunity to win this seat against Paxton, who has been plagued by scandal during his political career.
Yes, it wouldn't be an election cycle if the Democrats weren't sensing an opportunity to flip Texas. It's their favorite pastime. Like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football or CNN trying to get decent ratings, they just know that this is the year that they finally turn Texas blue. To use another Peanuts analogy, it's the political equivalent of waiting for the great pumpkin.
Now, Republicans have been deeply worried that they'll have to dump tens of millions of dollars into Ruby Red, Texas to keep this seat in Republican hands, something that is an almost unthinkable scenario just a few weeks ago.
Oh no, a political party having to spend money in an election year, the absolute horror. Because as we all know, Democrats never dump tens of millions of dollars into races they know that they're going to lose by double digits. Right, Beto? Right, Colin?
Cornyn and many GOP senators have expressed frustration and anxiety about Paxton potentially being the GOP nominee. Until the very final minutes of this campaign, we heard from Senator John Cornyn trying to argue that Paxton's personal and legal scandals here in the state, that would be a liability for Republicans come November.
Breaking news! The politician that just lost a primary thinks the guy who beat him is a bad candidate. Astute political analysis there, Arlette.
My party, Democrats, haven't won anything in Texas in 32 years. They haven't won a Senate seat in 38 years. They haven't won a governorship in 36 years. They haven't carried a presidential candidate in Texas for 50 years.
Paul Begala literally just admitted his party hasn't won a statewide race in Texas since the era of the floppy disk. But hey, this time is different because of a guy named James Talarico. The definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing for 30 years and expecting Texas to magically turn blue.
And we're sitting here saying that Texas is up for grabs, in part because the Democrats nominated a very strong candidate, James Talarico, who in the polling right now is 11 points above water. His popularity is very high.
He's 11 points above water! Yes, Paul, because it's the spring and the Republican attack ad machine hasn't even warmed up the engines yet. Bragging about a Texas Democrats poll number 6 months before the general is like bragging about your fantasy football team in July. But keep that hope alive, Paul. Next, CNN tries to scare voters by pointing out that a Texas Republican is loyal to Donald Trump and fights the federal government.
Paxton's loyalty to the president dates back years. You'll remember he took the stage at his rally on January 6, 2021, hours before rioters attacked the Capitol on that day. As the Attorney General in Texas, he also fought in court for Trump's false claims about the 2020 election.
We sued 4 states over the ballot fraud and not following the Constitution, not following state law, and we took it directly to the Supreme Court, and they should have heard our case.
Yeah, I'm sure that this will completely alienate the conservative base that literally just voted for him.
Paxton is someone who filed more than 100 lawsuits against the Biden administration when he was Attorney General, many of them on issues like weaponization of government agencies and vaccine mandates.
Oh no, he filed lawsuits against Biden's vaccine mandates and federal overreach? Why would Texans be remotely angry about that? Hey voters, this guy spent 4 years aggressively fighting the federal policies that you hate the most. Aren't you disgusted?
But to also understand the magnitude of Ken Paxton's victory in Texas tonight is to also understand why Republican-aligned groups have burned through tens of millions of dollars, highlighting his years of scandal to portray him as unelectable in a general race.
Burned through tens of millions of dollars is putting it mildly. The establishment Republican machine and John Cornyn's allied PACs outspent Ken Paxton on the airwaves by roughly 17-1 during his primary. They lit a mountain of cash on fire trying to convince conservative voters that Paxton was unelectable. But instead, Paxton still beat a 24-year incumbent by nearly 30 points. Womp womp.
In 2015, Paxton was indicted for allegedly encouraging investors to fund a technology company without disclosing that he had been compensated for referrals. It wasn't until years later that a settlement was reached and the felony charges against him were formally dismissed.
Ah, yes, the 2015 indictment that dragged on for nearly a decade, ultimately resulting in no felony conviction, dropped charges, and a settlement. You know what voters hear when a politician is investigated by the state for 9 years and they can't make a felony stick? They hear witch hunt, and the media still hasn't figured that out.
Then in 2020, several members of Ken Paxton's senior staff reported him to the FBI, alleging bribery, abuse of power, and misusing the AG's office to help a political donor. He denied the allegations, and in May 2023, the Republican-controlled Texas House impeached him over it.
And then what happened, Caitlin?
He was ultimately acquitted by the Texas State Senate, and the Justice Department under President Biden reportedly dropped its case against him just before the start of President Trump's second term.
Notice how Caitlin Collins had to speed run through this whole acquitted and dropped part. CNN and the Democrats love the accusation, but they hate the exoneration.
That's not where the controversy stopped, though. In fact, what followed became a pretty key part of Senator John Cornyn's campaign message against him.
Crooked Ken Paxton cheated on his wife. She's divorcing him on biblical grounds. So now Paxton's wrecking another home, sleeping around with a married mother of 7. Now think of the Paxton dirty deeds we don't know about yet. The wife cheater and fraud, or the Texas workhorse.
Ah, the multi-million-dollar he's a bad husband strategy. Because nothing screams, I have a strong vision for the future of Texas, like spending establishment PAC money to broadcast the messy details of your opponent's personal life.
I should note, CNN has not independently verified the allegations that were made in that video.
Why not? Don't you work for an alleged news organization or something?
You have Paxton here, who was married for almost 40 years, and his wife, who knows him the best, ended their marriage on biblical grounds. What does that mean? I'm a Catholic. I will say that either means you cheated on your spouse with a man or a woman, or you went ahead and abused your spouse. I will say that is, when you're talking about judgment, a woman who knows that, has known that man for 40 years, that is judgment.
Wow, armchair theologian Sochi Hinojosa here, casually throwing out blind, completely unverified accusations of spousal abuse on national television. Here's the best part though. The Paxton divorce records were unsealed last year and they explicitly cited adultery. There are 0 accusations of abuse. But, why let pesky things like actual court documents and the truth get in the way of a good primetime CNN smear? I hope Paxton sues you, Sochi.
It's a real campaign. Yeah. The baggage will be unloaded. We'll see whose bags are heavier.
And who is actually mainstream and who isn't.
I think that's going to be a core question.
I don't think security fraud is mainstream.
Now David Axelrod is out here casually convicting Ken Paxton of a crime. It's securities fraud, by the way, not security fraud.
Security fraud.
Regardless, the charges against Ken Paxton were officially dropped and dismissed. You can't declare someone guilty of a crime on national television when the legal system literally cleared the case. Seems like a certain chief political analyst is looking to be the lead defendant in a defamation case. Democrats, the party of misinformation and disinformation. So to recap, CNN has lied about Paxton's legal issues, glossed over his actual record, and slandered his personal life, and none of those things are going to move the needle for a single Republican voter. So now they're going to try to attack his bank account.
On a government salary, he's become a millionaire. How does that happen? Millionaire? He makes $153,000 a year as Attorney General. When he became a state official, his net worth, according to his own disclosures, was $175,000. Okay, now he's a multimillionaire. Wall Street Journal says he has 11 homes. He's got 11 damn homes. How did he get so rich?
According to the Wall Street Journal, though, it was from investing. Back in 2004, Paxton had invested about $300,000 in a police video technology company that would become WatchGuard. When the company was bought by Motorola Solutions in 2019, Paxton would receive a windfall of $2.2 million. 2 years after the big gain, the Paxtons and their blind trust went on a 10-month real estate buying binge, spending almost $3.5 million on residential properties in Florida, Oklahoma, Utah, and Hawaii. They took out mortgages to pay for some of the properties. In 2024, Paxton bought an $800,000 condo at a resort in Ivins, Utah, and transferred it into the trust in March 2025, according to public records. The Paxtons now own at least 11 residential properties around the US with an assessed value of $7.5 million. Wait, let me get this straight. Paul Begala is completely baffled as to how Ken Paxton became a millionaire, but the Wall Street Journal, the very paper that Begala just cited on the air, explains it perfectly right there in their article.
Crooked Ken is what Senator Cornyn called it.
A far-left Democrat strategist eagerly quoting an establishment Republican schoolyard nickname. It's crazy how fast a partisan divide disappears the second the Washington elite team up against a guy they can't control.
But it's interesting to me that now Republicans have to worry about deep red Texas because they have a flawed candidate.
Ken Paxton may be a flawed candidate, but have you met his Democrat challenger, James Talarico?
For me, prophetic voices like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness. It's a never-ending process, and it's a painful process. The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us, and in many ways, like Jesus, like the cross, it's been co-opted, and in some ways, its true meaning has been betrayed.
I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption. I think not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but also it's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change.
You can't call yourself a Christian and destroy God's creation with greenhouse gases. Every one of our neighbors with a uterus became the property of the state.
I don't think it's controversial theologically. Most Christians believe that God is beyond gender.
God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary.
There are many more than 2 biological sexes. In fact, there are 6. Biologically speaking, scientifically speaking, sex is a spectrum. I am not well versed in this issue area. I'm not a scientist. I'm a politician.
So the Democrats' absolute perfect candidate to win over regular everyday Texans is a politician who wants to phase out your brisket, apologizes for his whiteness, and argues that there are 6 biological sexes. It's like the Democrat Party built a candidate in a lab specifically to lose a statewide race in Texas by 20 points.
All these analysis of this race is sort of the differences between what a Cornyn or a Paxton would look like here. I'm thinking about the differences between Talarico and literally every other Texan. Don't know any Texans who believe in 6 genders other than Talarico. Don't know any Texans who said it's immoral to eat meat other than Talarico. Don't know any Texans who walk around saying things, God is non-binary. You all are both Texans. Do you know any other Texan who even talks like that? Issues aside, who says these things out loud?
Do you know what I'm smelling, Scott? Fear. Panic.
Fear?
Raw, stinking panic.
I wouldn't say it smells like fear per se. It smells more like the desperate cope of a Washington insider who just realized that his party nominated a guy who thinks that most Christians believe that God is non-binary.
You guys
Fear
are
of the
on this.
cisgender
You
guy?
are on this. He's more popular than Trump in Texas,
Can
brother.
you explain his position?
He cited a biological study. It's not his position. He cited a study.
Notice how fast Paul Begala throws his own candidate under the bus. He doesn't even try to defend the 6 genders talking point. He immediately hits the panic button and goes, whoa. That's not his position. He just read a study.
Scott is melting down, but that is like the Republican Party right now.
You guys endorsing the genders is amazing.
I'm not endorsing that, and neither is Talarico, to be honest.
Whoa.
Let her make her
Hold on,
point, Scott. Let her make her point,
Let
Scott.
me make my point. He is an 8th generation white Texas male who loves meat,
Yeah, I bet he does.
and Republicans are running completely scared right now.
Right, because if there's one thing that Texas Republicans are famous for being terrified of, it's a far-left Democrat from Austin lecturing them about their whiteness and their carbon footprint. Good luck with that narrative, guys.
I've heard from Texas Republicans who are long-standing Republicans who said, I'll never vote for Ken Paxton. Remember, he was impeached in the Texas House overwhelmingly in a Republican-dominated House.
I've heard from Texas Republicans saying, well, vote for Paxton. Don't you love it when Democrats pretend to be the whisperers of the conservative movement? The reality is that everyday Texas Republicans aren't going to vote for a radical progressive just because the establishment House failed to pass a rushed impeachment scam.
I don't think 6 genders, no meat, and calling the American flag a complicated symbol. We'll fight it out.
No. I mean, that's your interpretation of what he said, and we'll see. But I think at the end of the day, people are going to want someone who's going to speak to their concerns, and this is not their main concern. We ran that race in 24. Trump got elected. I'm not sure it's going to play in 26.
And Democrats learned nothing.
Scott Jennings is 100% correct. It's like political Groundhog Day on this network. Axelrod sits there and confesses that everyday Americans completely rejected this far-left nonsense just 2 years ago, but instead of telling his own party to stop nominating radical candidates, he just blames Republicans for noticing what Democrat candidates actually believe. But good luck with that strategy in Texas, Democrats. I'm sure that running a candidate who wants to phase out beef while simultaneously telling working class voters that their concerns are just a distraction is a flawless recipe for victory this November. Anyway, that's it for now. Head on over to my super cool merch store at don'twalkrun.shop to help support the channel. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and hope to see you next time, if there is a next time.